Today is a momentous day for fans of a old-time series. I'm getting ready here to go pick up Shenmue 1 and 2 Remastered, or the port, however you want to describe it. Here's my original Dreamcast version. And here I have Shenmue 2. I played it on the Xbox. I've got 3 copies of it. There was a couple of them that I found for really cheap, and so I always picked it up. I can't believe that these games are coming out on the PS4 and the Xbox One. I have 2 copies of it pre-ordered right now. They're sitting for me over there at GameStop. So I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to head over there. Oh man, it's very, very odd having this actually happen. I've not been like at the forefront of this fight. Like, I've always wished that there was another Shenmue game, and there's been like this really core group of people who for years now have been just fighting, hoping, praying, tweeting, going crazy, trying to get Shenmue to be released. Basically hoping at first for only Shenmue 3, so basically wanting a sequel, because originally the game was supposed to have a lot of different parts to it, and I can't even remember how many exactly, but literally around 5 to 6 or 7 games, lots more than it ever got. There were only ever the 2 games released, and that was pretty much it. So yeah, going through a dark space here real quick, coming out into the wide open fields of Pennsylvania. All right, so I'm on my way to GameStop. So Shenmue, the first one, when I first played it, it's funny, I didn't even like it, which is really sad because it's become one of my favorite games of all time. Shenmue 2, which I actually played all the way through for the first time maybe 2.5 years ago, is literally in my top 5 games of all time. I think if you look up my video on my channel, I think it is number 5. I love that game so much. The first one I really like a lot. The first one I've played more than the second, but the second is really my favorite. It's awesome. So my history with the first one, before Shenmue ever came out, it was getting hyped up in a lot of game magazines. People didn't know what it was. They called it a free game, full reactive eyes entertainment. So Yu Suzuki was basically making up his own genre for a video game. Basically, the free thing never took hold, but it's basically what we would understand now as an open world. And it was the very first game to do that. And to me, at the time, when I first tried it, it felt too expansive. It felt too big. It felt too detailed. I wasn't that much of a fan because I just didn't get it. It was a little bit ahead of me. And another interesting thing too, I just had never played anything like it. I'd played other RPGs, but Final Fantasy is pretty linear, to be honest, even though it didn't necessarily feel linear, and at the time I didn't think it was linear, and I would have thought of that as an open world game. It's nothing like an open world game that we would talk about it now, so I played Shenmue. Oh, this is funny. So before it came out, my friend was super into the Dreamcast, and I was super excited about the PS2. So of course, being young, we were 11 and 12-ish, that era, you argue. It's for some reason, when you're young, you're stupid, and you don't understand that everything can be awesome at the same time, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a competition, especially in something as stupid as video games. So we would argue about whether the Dreamcast or the PS2 was better, and one of the biggest points that he had for the Dreamcast was talking about this mystical game that hadn't come out yet, that was this full new genre that was just gonna blow everyone's minds, and the screenshots and the video game magazines looked amazing, and it kind of made me ooh, a little bit nervous there, But it was so funny that the first time that I played it and I didn't like it, I was like, validated. You know, I was like, yeah, this game isn't that great. Little did I realize, like, I was just being a freaking idiot, and I was not appreciating the game for what it really was. So somehow, it must have been maybe a year or two later, my youngest brother Noah ended up owning a Dreamcast, and I played a lot of Shenmue, and it started to kind of click for me. It still wasn't like one of my absolute favorite games of all time, but I started to get it, and I really liked the fighting, and I really liked the story. The story is one of the best revenge stories ever. Like, it's so poignant. It's amazing. Like, and it's incredible how it just so slowly unfolds. Like, you start out in such a small town, and especially like Rio is so in over his head, being like basically a high schooler whose dad was just killed in front of his eyes, and he has no idea who the person was. Like, he saw him physically, but he doesn't know who it was. You know, he knows that it was a Chinese dude, and that's about it. And this whole story unfolding of like trying to piece together the details to figure out who this person was is just awesome. It's one of the most ambitious games I've ever seen in my life. Not to mention how crazy like Yu Suzuki's previous idea of what it would be with how many games he wanted to release. If only that had happened, that would have been just so cool. There's a possibility that it could be happening, because if these games sell really well, then that's going to be awesome. And also, oh my gosh. So, okay, I'm jumping all over the place. I'm going to go back to, okay, so I ended up playing Shenmue, loved it. When I got a Dreamcast again, maybe 3 years ago, I bought Shenmue, played it again, loved it even more. About 6 months or so, it was in January of 2018, I got my Akira box for my Dreamcast, so I was able to play with VGA quality through an HDMI cord. And so I put in Shenmue just to test it out and see how good it looked. 2.5 days later, I had beaten the game, and like I was literally having like 11-hour game sessions with it. Like, I was having so much fun with it. It was just amazing. Now, Shenmue 2, I actually have a review of the game on my channel, and then I also mentioned it in my top 5 games of all time video. And I played that and just was completely blown away. And Shenmue 2 to me is way bigger than the first one, and the story really starts picking up. And Shenmue is not for everyone. It's very slow. It's kind of like a test of your patience in a lot of ways, and I can completely understand why a lot of people don't go for that. When it really clicked for me, I completely got obsessed with it. Shenmue 2 is a little more fast-paced. Things click along at a bit of a better rate, and so it's just really, really awesome. Like, so I bought Shenmue 2 actually way back in the day for my brother for Christmas, my brother Noah. It was really weird. So Shenmue 2 never came out on the Dreamcast in the US. As I showed you my collection earlier, I have a bunch of them, copies for the original Xbox. And that was just like politics between Sega and Microsoft at the time, and the fact that the Dreamcast was dead, and Sega was kind of supporting Microsoft quite a bit, and all that. So the Xbox got Shenmue 2, but over in PAL and in Japan, Shenmue 2 came out on the Dreamcast. Now, if you loved the Dreamcast, and if you had already played the game on the Dreamcast, the first game, then you really wanted to keep that going. So it was really cool that our local Babbage's at the time, it wasn't even a GameStop yet, they hadn't been taken over, had a couple copies of the PAL version. So I actually grabbed the PAL version. They gave me a boot disc so that we could play it on our American Dreamcast, and I got that for my little brother for Christmas, which was just freaking sweet. And so he played that game, but never actually beat it. And I wish that we had kept that game, because right now that game is like valued at like $150 or something crazy like that. It would have been so dope if we actually had that. So, all right, I just got to GameStop, about ready to walk in, about ready to grab myself my copies of this game. It's on Xbox One and PS4, as you know. All right, so I'm gonna stop talking to myself so that I don't look stupid, but I'll just let you guys be in on this. All right, here we go. Hey, how's it going? Here to pick up Shenmue 1 and 2. Awesome.
It should be in the drawer. I thought I saw a copy.
Yeah, it just came out today. You have it pre-ordered?
Yep.
Nice.
2 copies.
Give me a second, just so I can. I'll lose track of where I'm at really quick.
Oh, that's all right.
Do you have a pro card?
Yes.
Well, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. If you pre-order it, then we can dig it up for you.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll book him up on the tablet then too.
Okay.
The last guy I looked up on the tablet, we saved some money. So hopefully it's more of the
Which
same.
one's you?
I got 2 copies of the PS4.
Oh, that's right. You did get 2 because
Mhm.
you did it through me, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember.
I got the
got it?
Super Nintendo Classic. Yeah.
What is your? Oh, give me a sec here. Just gonna look it up once, so I don't have to ask you the same thing twice.
Oh, sure, no problem. Oh man, I can't believe this is finally out. This is crazy.
It's cheaper too. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you're the one that said you were getting it for your brother. From,
Yeah, I'm getting one for me, one for my brother.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That rings a bell all of a sudden.
yeah,
Yeah, because he was saying last week, he was like, oh yeah, you're a good brother.
yeah.
His
Sweet.
brother's in the military.
This is
Ah,
amazing.
Korea, remember that?
Oh, this is great.
Yes.
You have phone number?
717-443-8530.
8530.
Yeah. Yeah.
When's
This
your
is.
brother getting back?
He's gonna be back to our hometown in Michigan in about 3 days, and then I'm gonna be there a couple days after that. So yeah,
Gotcha.
really soon we're gonna be playing a bunch of Shenmue. It's gonna be really cool. I'm excited for it.
And we got. And you paid them both in full, correct?
Yep. Sweet.
And do you happen to have your ID on you?
Yeah.
Just because they're already paid off. So
Oh, sure.
Thought I'd double check that.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
Man, these games are so old. Like 18 years old, finally getting re-released.
Yeah.
Crazy. Dreamcast.
Was it really Dreamcast?
Yep.
That's 18 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the first Shenmue came out in like 2000.
Oh my god, you're
As,
making me feel old.
as long as I'm right about that, I
Oh my
know.
god, I was biking.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
talking about it. I was actually biking around here
Yeah.
at the time.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah. Oh man, this is just weird.
That makes me feel old.
Yeah. Shenmue 3's coming eventually, I
Oh,
guess.
God, let's not talk about it.
All right, thank you much. Yep, have a good one.
Okay. Yeah. It's open.
All right, super exciting. Here we go. Got 1 copy for myself, and he doesn't know it yet, but 1 copy from a little bro Noah, who is not actually in the military. He's been overseas teaching English in South Korea. He's finally coming back in a couple days here. Actually, he just had his last day of work yesterday, and then he's packing up and flying over. So can't wait to see him. Can't wait to surprise him with a Shenmue copy of that. It all comes full circle. I bought him Shenmue 2 when we were little kids. Now he's getting another one. And he said on Facebook the other day that he wants to actually beat it this time. All right, guys, I just thought that maybe somebody out there would want to be a part of my crazy enthusiasm. I'm just so excited. Can't believe this. This is awesome. Thank you, Yu Suzuki, for everything you've done. Thank you, Sega, for allowing this to happen. Thank you, Sony, for all your support. Don't forget you can get this on the Xbox One also, if that's your console of choice. The game is not for everyone. I am so excited. Some of my favorite games ever. Can't wait to play this shit again. It's going to be awesome. All right, peace out.